Mal might be magical, but even she makes mistakes, and it's probably because filming a Disney Channel movie is really hard. Complicated dance numbers mean that mics, jewelry, and even people end up where they're not supposed to be. But what can you do when creating movie magic isn't quite so simple as waving a wand?
Stand back.
Why?
You'll see.
In Descendants 2's big You and Me number, everyone's hair gets wet. That's bound to happen when you're dancing on the deck of a soaking wet ship. But filming a scene half dry and half wet isn't easy. That's probably why the characters, especially Mal and Evie, go between wet and dry hair seemingly at random throughout the scene. 1 second, you'll notice that a character's hair is a little wet, and then moments later it looks freshly dried. This probably happened because of how many times the director had to reset the scene. When they edited the best parts together, the dancing was a lot more important than how wet or dry someone's hair was. But the most notable mistake that we can't ignore is near the end of the dance number when Mal stops dancing in the water to run up the steps. Her hair goes from absolutely soaked to perfectly dry. Pulling out the magic, Mal, or did Disney just forget to wet your hair again? Sometimes certain mistakes are hard to notice, like a hair being out of place or a jacket suddenly missing a button. But how hard is it to notice an entire wardrobe change out of thin air? That's exactly what happened to Dizzy in Descendants 3 during the performance of Good to Be Bad. One moment she's wearing a loose patchwork dress as she dances. The next second she's wearing a much nicer version of a patchwork dress. But no one else had sudden costume changes. Did the wardrobe department update her wardrobe halfway through filming and not notice that her old clothes were already in the scene? Since Dizzy's not front and center, it might have been a bit hard for an editor to spot the mistake. And are they really going to refilm a whole section just because Dizzy's wearing the wrong outfit in the background? But if you have an eagle eye, you probably already spotted this one and wondered how Disney overlooked an entire wardrobe change. Guess they'll just blame it on magic.
And go swimming?
I can take you to the Enchanted Lake.
Okay, so we don't expect a movie about zombies to be very believable, but there are a few mistakes in zombies that we just can't stop thinking about, and they both have to do with how weird gravity seems to work out. During Fired Up, Zoe's wearing a whistle around her neck. When she goes to do a flip, the whistle seems to stay attached to her shirt. But before and after the scene, the whistle looks like it's pretty loose and wasn't attached to anything. Bucky defies gravity in the same way. We see him tuck his whistle into his shirt, but it doesn't fly out when he's on stage doing slips and tricks. So, what gives? Well, they definitely didn't want whistles hitting the actors' faces, so they probably pinned them to their wardrobe for the dancing, but they could have just left them pinned so we could all see how the dancers managed to do it. Another gravity-defying scene occurs when Zed's dancing on a trampoline floor during BAM. The floor sure seems like it has to be a trampoline since Zed drops onto his back and bounces right back up. But why don't the other dancers ever seem to bounce around when they're doing complicated footwork? It looks to us like only a section was a trampoline, or they replaced parts of the floor for certain scenes. It ends up looking awesome, but we'd love to know exactly how they did it, because we're confused.
I just need a little zom boost, okay? Like what happened to the pep rally.
Descendants 2 is a repeat offender. The film might be awesome, but continuity definitely isn't its biggest strength. During Chillin' Like a Villain, an entire barrel seems to forget exactly where it's supposed to be on set. Ben kicks the barrel when he starts getting into the performance. We see it fly off to the side, out of the dancer's way. It's gone for the next few moments, but then suddenly you can see it in the frame again, and it seems a lot closer than it was before. You'd think they'd mark the floor where the barrel rolled and make sure to keep it there every time they reset the scene, but maybe keeping track of a prop just didn't seem that important. Plus, the characters leave the area right after to dance down an alleyway, so we'd put the barrel pretty far down the list of important items. Kim Possible does like to make the impossible happen, so maybe this next mistake was totally on purpose. When Kim decides to try out for the soccer team, she pulls out all of her best moves, including a series of flips down the field towards the net. Now, first of all, these flips are totally illegal in a soccer match. You have crazy cheerleading skills, Kim, but maybe for the soccer tryouts you should, play soccer? But illegal soccer moves aside, the other soccer players act a little strange when Kim starts flipping around. As Kim runs down the field, her opponents are drawing closer, but then when she flips, they suddenly all seem a lot farther back. kind of like they knew it was coming and decided to give her room. Well, that's probably exactly what happened behind the scenes. The stunt double had to do some flips, so everyone needed to get out of her way. Disney just didn't do the best job at trying to hide it, and with Kim that much in the zone, it's not like being closer would have helped much anyway.
That was amazing.
Getting complicated choreography right is no easy task. It's probably even harder when you're doing it on a sandy beach under the heat of the sun. Maybe that's why Teen Beach Movie didn't work too hard to fix a few mistakes in their performance. During Surf's Crazy, Tanner seems to mess up one of the dance moves and has to fix it off screen. But what we see is his body suddenly changing positions between 1 second and the next. At first, he messes up the drop onto his surfboard and is half in the sand. You can see that everyone around him is fully on their surfboard. Then the camera zooms in on Mac, but when it widens again, we see that Tanner's quickly moved his whole body onto the surfboard. Smooth, but we see you, Tanner. Mac's performance of Surf's Up also had a small hiccup. You can see her dancing away, and at one point, the hem of her shorts rolls up. The very next second, they're back to normal. It's gotta be hard to keep your wardrobe in place while dancing around a beach, so we'll let this one slide. Everyone remembers the moment Gabriella finally came out of her shell on stage and performed Breaking Free with Troy, but one mistake in this scene makes us think that the entire song's been wrong this whole time. If you pay attention to this scene before Gabriella gets spooked, you can see that she's the one about to start the song, but after Troy convinces her to continue, he's suddenly the one starting them off. Does that mean the parts they're supposed to sing are reversed for the entire performance? Honestly, our minds are blown. Sure, Zach could have taken the first line to help her out a bit, but it seems like the sections are split pretty evenly to us. The mistake is probably nothing more than them wanting to make Gabriella's stage fright look more intense. But now all we want is a reverse version of Breaking Free, which is really just an excuse to hear them sing again.
She has an amazing voice.
Perhaps the next musicale.
In High School Musical 2, when the gang gathers to sing All for One at the end of the film, Chad starts to get a little bit clumsy. His dancing and singing are on point, but it seems like his mic wasn't quite so into the performance. As he's grabbing his mic stand, the mic topples off and falls right into the pool. Well, Chad, looks like you have to jump in and grab it. Wait, it's back already? Out of thin air, the mic is back to normal and Chad keeps singing away. So why'd they keep the mic fail in when it's so noticeable? Well, could you imagine having to redo an entire take just because the microphone fell? They probably didn't think it was worth it. But now you have two things to look out for every time you watch this scene: Chad's magical reappearing mic and Miley Cyrus's iconic cameo. Demi Lovato's breakout role in Camp Rock will go down in history as the first time we saw the superstar sing, dance, and play the piano. Except she wasn't doing that last part. In the opening scene of the movie, Mitchie's rocking out to Who Will I Be when she gets inspired to go a little crazy on the keys. But the hand that slides across the keyboard is definitely not Mitchie's hand. First of all, the nails are longer, the fingers look different, and the hand definitely belongs to an older woman. It's not strange for a movie to hire a musical double for some of their stars, but couldn't they have at least painted the nails the same color? Or made sure that Demi's hands and the double's hands were about the same size? Maybe they had to find Mitchie's musical talents in a pinch. But we're not letting this one get by unnoticed, Disney.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know. You seem different.
Who knew that Olivia and Stella were so into teleportation? You're probably confused and trying to remember if there was magic in Lemonade Mouth, but this teleportation was all behind the scenes. At the end of She's So Gone, Mo is belting the final notes of the song and really getting into it, when suddenly the camera shot widens and Olivia and Stella have completely changed spots on the stage. And then in the next shot, they're suddenly back to normal. Unless Stella and Olivia have been hiding some super speed, this sudden stage change is totally impossible. Did they quickly run behind Mo and switch spots in the span of a few seconds? Then did they race back to their original spots just to confuse us? The much more likely option is that the crew set the scene up two different ways during filming and got a little confused about which one to use for the final cut. Or maybe there was just so much energy in this version that the editor just had to use it. Strange teleportation aside. But it does make us think, could you imagine Stella and Olivia as superhero buddies? Get on it, Disney. Were you able to spot any of these movie mistakes during your first watch? Let us know in the comments, and feel free to share more of your favorite Disney Channel goofs. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to The Things. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.